Welcome to Cringe and Crumble, the podcast where we dive into real-life experiences and raw, unfiltered conversations about life, dating, and relationships.
Join us as we share our own stories with those of our guests that will inspire you to connect with others in a new light. Whether it's overcoming heartbreak,
navigating the dating world,
or finding new ways to live in your truth,
we've got you covered. So buckle up and let's get ready to
cringe and crumble.
Woo!
All right. Here we are.
Yes.
I'm super excited this episode.
Hi, Tranisha.
Oh, we should probably start off with introducing ourselves, right?
Because we forgot last time.
We did forget last time. So, yes, I'm Tranisha. Hi, Vanessa.
Hi.
How are you doing?
I'm doing great.
Are you really doing great?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm good. I'm good.
I think we forgot to introduce ourselves because I think we just assumed that everyone already knows us.
Yeah. Well, they will.
They will. Now they know our voices.
Yeah.
So I'm Tranisha.
And I'm Vanessa.
And we are Cringe and Crumble hosts.
That's right.
And for this episode, we're super excited to the point where I just kind of feel like we should skip over how was your weekend?
Yeah.
How was life? Which I always do.
Yeah. My weekend's good.
Yeah.
My weekend was good. My life is good.
Yeah, all is well in the world. I'm just
Yeah.
super excited for this
Yeah.
episode. So this episode is entitled Situationships, which I am so excited about. There's so much to talk about here. I think I'm going to just start off with defining what situationships are. And then we're going to delve into all the different types of situationships. So
Right.
the way that we define situationships is that it's a term that's used to describe a relationship that lacks clarity and commitment of a traditional romantic relationships. So in this episode, let me know if I'm wrong, but we're going to talk about friends with benefits,
Right.
being the mistress, going back to an ex for sex, being best friends with the opposite sex, dating your ex's or friend's parents, dating a friend's ex, and we're going to probably talk about a little bit of our best friend wedding because I feel like it kind of encompasses all those situationships that we're about to talk about.
Yeah.
So let's delve right into it. So
Okay.
you tell me what you think. What is your definition of friends with benefits?
Well, friends with benefits is just a situationship that two people probably discuss in some format of, having a non-monogamous relationship.
Yeah, more like an
Casual,
casual relationship.
No ties, no strings attached or anything.
Just all physical activities.
Right, yeah. Again, I'm going to bring the word technicality because I used it last time. Raising that technical card, right? Technically, you're not in a relationship.
No.
And technically, you can't claim to be. So if you ever wanted to date someone else or be non-monogamous and just, have sex with other people, you can just kind of raise the card and say, hey, technically we're not in a relationship, so you can't get mad.
Well, also, you don't even have to discuss that with the other person because you're just friends with benefits and you're really not conversating like that anyway. Because in our relationships, it's just...
Well, it depends on what kind of boundaries were placed in the beginning.
I mean, what are those boundaries? I'm going to tell you what I'm doing every day of my life. Usually in a friends with benefits relationship, it's physical in nature. I see you, I get what I want out of it, and you leave. Not saying that's something that I do. I can honestly say that friends with benefits is not a situationship that I've ever been in or ever want to be in because I know myself. Like I feel like you have a bit of an attachment with someone once you've actually been physical with that person. And I don't want to, come off as like, oh yeah, we're in a friends with benefits relationship, then over time I'm going to grow feelings for that person. And I can't. And I just know myself. So I'm not that type of person, but I think we all know people who have been in these situationships like this.
Absolutely.
And can speak on it. But I'll let you speak on yours first because I think you have probably. I'm not assuming. I'm just thinking.
I mean, it wasn't easy. I mean, I feel that, friends with benefits really doesn't, there's emotional consequences to that. Someone will get attached. I don't care. I mean, I personally don't know any kind of story where a friends with benefits situation became a full-on long-term relationship.
No, not unless
or
it's a
marriage
movie.
at that.
If it's a movie, it always works itself out that way.
Right. I just watched that movie, Friends with Benefits, and No Strings Attached, just so I can like remember how it felt. And yeah, no, it didn't feel like that at the end for me. So
No, it felt good. I think what people really get out of it, because it feels good in the moment, right?
right.
You get that instant gratification. You feel amazing, and then after a while, you start feeling a certain type of way. And so, you're right. Like, it's not the movies. It's not something you want to do. Long term. I mean, maybe you just do it one time or two times and find out it's not something that's meant for you. Like I've said, we all are friend adjacent to someone who's actually been in those type of relationships. And you're correct, when one person start actually growing feelings for that other person. Like, I've known someone who is in a friends with benefits situationship, and it went on for over like a year and some change. But to that person, they really thought they were dating and in a relationship. But it's like, you started off this situationship as friends with benefits. Everything is physical in nature. Everything that you do, everything you talk about, everything you ever text, it's always sexual in nature. There's no ever going out to dinner, never going to that person's apartment, never meeting that person's friends. And it's like, it's sad because that individuals have wasted a year and some change in their life thinking that they are actually dating someone, when it's like, no, like, you are in a friends with benefits situationship, and I understand that. And if anyone else needs to have this PSA announcement, if you are in that, get out of it. It's just a waste of time, and it's a waste of energy.
Right.
And what are you doing? You're going to be looking really sad at the end of the day.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's not even about looking sad. It's like somebody's going to get hurt, and it's just not. It's not a good feeling for you or for the person. If you're the one who's getting hurt or you're hurting someone, it's like, it's just not like a good place to be.
No, it's not. And if you are starting to develop those feelings, maybe you should have a conversation.
For real. Yeah.
Don't make these assumptions that this is what's happening, because it's not happening that way for you. And what could have been something great for you, with all this energy that you're actually inputting to a friends with benefits relationship, you should probably take that energy and try to go into a real relationship, because maybe it'll work out better for you at the end of the day.
Yeah, definitely. And, like what I said about the emotional consequences, I mean, there is a thing, that I've read about called soul ties. And now, there's a lot of instances where you're with somebody and you're kind of, soul tie is really about, it's like an intense like connection with somebody. And it's not so much that you have a connection with that person, but that person has had a number of partners before being engaged with you. And so maybe that connection with those other partners didn't really fizzle out completely. And so there's that intense connection with those other partners that are also coming into your life, into your soul, quote unquote soul. So there's something to that. And I think, if you have time, go and check it out, go Google it. It's a thing, I promise. It's not a good way to end up if you're in a friends with benefits situation, because you can really get caught up with somebody that doesn't have the same intentions as you do. And it's really, really hard to disconnect to that person and disconnect from that emotional intensity that can be created just from a quick soul tie that you just feel, that magnetic feeling.
I'm kind of curious too. Now I need to Google that, because soul ties is new for me. But I wonder, like, how do you get rid of that soul tie, right? Like, it's kind of like,
I mean, I
is it like
Googled that
on
too.
it on you like forever? Like, what if it's like bad karma or something? Like, I'm like, how does that actually work itself out?
Think about, like, it's just even like, imagine being in a relationship for 20 years and trying to like separate from that person, separate that connection. So you have to distract yourself, go to therapy, to like really try to almost manipulate yourself to not be engaged or not think about that person or not have those intense feelings. A soul tie can do that quicker than 20 years. That can happen a lot sooner, a lot with a lot less time in between. So it's really, you gotta, people have to be careful with that.
Yeah, I guess now it's a lot of food for thought, right? Friends and benefits. It sounds good on paper, right? Sounds good in that moment, but really kind of, sit down and have that conversation with yourself and see if you really want to do this. But for those who love to do it and it works for them, I say do it. I'm not like crapping on it. I just say it doesn't work for me. And I think it just requires a lot, and emotionally, shall we say.
For sure. But and unfortunately, I hate to say it, but it really, most of the time when I've seen it, it's really on the women who gets a little bit more emotionally attached. So women
and their friends are left picking up the pieces, right?
exactly,
And it's unfortunate. And you also see sometimes those women, because they don't want to hear, what your opinion is, but they do ask it because they're your friends. And then they may want to disconnect because it's not something that they want to hear or be a part of. But you're always going to be there to pick up the pieces at the end when it doesn't work itself out. But yeah, it's unfortunate.
We have to keep our good friends around us.
You
It's
do.
important.
You need those checks and balances, even though we don't like to hear it. But it's like I told you, if my grandma says you like it and I love it, so do what you do, boo. We're not here to judge, but just to let you know that friends and benefits.
We judge a little bit.
We do,
just a little bit, but we need it
for us.
Sometimes we need that grain of salt.
Like, what are you doing? How is life? No, live your best life at the end of the day. But yeah, but let's move on to our next situationship, which is quite interesting. It's being the mistress. So I can say I've never been the mistress. It's not something I would ever want to do because I feel like the karma on that is just out of control.
Yeah.
I don't know about you. And if you have, there's no judgment. Maybe
I was never the mistress on purpose. Let me explain. I was seeing this guy, and then one night some woman calls me from a random number. No, I think it was his number. It was his phone, and she called me like blacking out on me, saying like I'm with her man. I'm like, I didn't even know he was in a relationship.
She's like, can you stop and introduce yourself first?
Yeah,
please?
like who's it? Like who this? I don't know you. So that happened. So I didn't know. That's not my fault.
Yeah, and I also don't think that counts as being a mistress because you did not know. You didn't willingly go into this. Like, I've known of people where they're like, they have no moral compass and they love being the mistress. It's like,
oh no,
they're not happy at home. Like their job is just to go out here and fulfill whatever this man's dream is. But my theory is the way that you get this man is the same way that you're going to lose this man.
Right.
And you're over here trying to break this happy home just because this guy is telling you this sad story of like, my marriage is boring. I'm leaving this person. They're going to tell you whatever they need to tell you just so you can stay with them. But it's not a good look. It's not a good look for you. It's not a good look for that person. And that's a conversation also you should probably have with yourself and your friends about, am I making a good decision right now? But like I said, if you do it, am I co-signing it? No. But if that's what you want to do what you got to do. But that is not a good situationship to be a part of.
Yeah. I mean, like, I don't know. People who enjoy being the mistress, there's something deeper down there, right? Like, I don't see how that could be enjoyable. You're not the number one or the only one.
It was just I think it was more euphoric for that person. It was something where you felt like it was a fun adventure. I think you're just role playing in a sense, and to them it was just that person. It was like, oh my God, this is like so much fun, but it's like you're actually doing a lot more damage than what you think you are doing in this one moment of fun. It's not something I would ever recommend.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't think it's a natural thing to want. Like, it's just definitely some deep shit going on in your life that makes you feel like it's okay to do that. And it's really not. I mean, in karma, it's going to come around, And
that's true. And maybe that person doesn't have a lot of confidence in themselves and thinking that they can be the number one person, but don't go around doing it that way. There's a better way of obtaining a man.
Right. Especially a man who's married with children. Why would you want to ruin someone's potential happiness? Maybe they're not happy. Fine, whatever. But they could be happy, But why would you, like, are you that unhappy that you just want to make everybody around you unhappy as well? Is that the
I think it goes both ways too. Men cheat with married women too, and then they wound up on Snapped. I don't. I've seen this a lot of times. I
know. I hate to be the judge, but I know. I feel like a little like
I don't like that situationship. It's pretty
judging.
icky. Very judgy on this one.
I know.
I'm gonna move away from this one. I don't like this one anyway. Let's move on. Going back to an ex for sex. Like, Is that something that you actually do, and do you recommend it?
Going back to an ex for sex. I mean, we've all done it before.
Oh, without a doubt. I do it all the time. Like, legit, if you're in a relationship with me and we break up, there's a 9 times out of 10, I'm going to go back. And then what usually happens is we're going to go back and have a second time in this relationship. So it's
round
usually,
two, relationship round two.
And it is, and it's useless. And I recommend against this because nothing ever good comes out of it, because I think you're not really thinking about why you guys broke up in the first place. It's more physical on this end. And also, it's just, it's not, I'm over that. That phase of life is done. But I can understand why I do it and other people do it. It's because it's a familiarity about that person. You know that person. You know what you're getting yourself into. It's easier.
Yeah.
But I don't recommend it, but I have done it and I do it a lot.
Yeah, I've been there.
I'm my own judge.
I don't know. I guess sometimes I'm a little hopeful. I always have a little hope for people. I'm thinking they might change, and I
Those
most
are
of the
facts.
most of the times I get disappointed. And I think that's where I fall and where I lie is I go back because I'm just yearning for that same moment that I felt like that I fell in love with you in the first place. I want that back, and I'm hoping that time apart is enough for me to come back and you're changed and you're a brand new man and everything will be okay. But it hasn't happened yet.
No, it's that small 1% we talk about in certain circumstances.
I guess
and that's
I'm a romantic. I watch too many movies.
I feel you. I align with that too. That's why I tell you I keep going back. So it's like, yeah, it's gonna happen, and it's like, nope, you're looking like Boo Boo the Fool again.
The Boo Boo the Fool.
You're like, what just happened here?
Oh man,
like damn. You messed up again. But yeah, I recommend against it.
Yeah. It's such a time waster or something.
It really is. It's once again, you're opening up those same wounds that you had before.
It depends on like why you broke up in the first place, right? Like if it's because of cheating, like don't go back. Like
no, absolutely not.
Don't do that.
No.
That should be a no.
That's a hard stop. That's a hard solid no.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
But if it's just like emotionally, it wasn't available. Well, maybe time apart, like you said. Not like the person's emotionally available
stressed
now,
or going through some sort of depression, or lost something, or lost his job, or a family member, or the move. Like he has no friend. I don't know. I'm just like making
but like you said, we're all hopeful. You're thinking like, with time, things heal all, and we would be back together again. And nope. Look at us. Didn't happen.
Yeah,
not happening.
I mean, I do know one person, a friend of mine, that she took a big break from her. Actually, it was her marriage, and they came back together. So I don't know. It could work. It depends on the situation of why you guys broke up to begin with. What we are hoping for in long-term relationships is that you're growing together instead of separately. Like you're on the same like parallel path and not like an adjacent path. So
yeah, I did actually one time. I was out and I met this lovely couple who was actually married for about 30 years. And they were very open and honest. And I'll never forget the wife saying, we actually just got back together. Like, she's like, I left him for 2 years. We didn't get a divorce.
I remember that.
Yeah. She said, I just needed some time to myself. And she goes, it has nothing to do with him. She goes, we've been married for the longest time. He's the best man I ever had in my life. But she's like, we just need some time apart. And she's like, she spent that time traveling the world and doing things that she never really did. And it just made her realize that she had the best man in the world. And she went back to him. I don't know how this has to do with going back to your ex for sex, but it just makes sense that, like we were talking about with time, things work itself out. But they've been back now, and she's like, yeah, they're celebrating. They were like celebrating like 35 years now, but minus those 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, when she went back, I mean, it again, sometimes, what's that saying?
Time heals all?
No. I guess that works.
I don't know. What saying were you thinking?
distance makes the heart
grow fonder.
grow fonder.
Oh, yeah.
I guess that's an example, right?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. I mean, she lived her best life. God knows we did in those 2 years. I mean, that's her
Oh,
problem.
yeah.
Listen.
That's a whole situationship within a relationship.
Listen, he was still back there waiting. That's all that matters at the end of the day. But yeah, no. Yeah. As we go down that rabbit hole. But that was a good story, though. I do think in time, I think sometimes when I do go back and I'm like, oh, it's going to happen like this. But they were also together for like ever. So that's kind of a different story.
But they were also previously married.
They were still married.
People.
Yes, they were married to other people for a short period of time. And then they stayed married for a very long time.
Yeah.
And I guess they were like, we ain't doing this a third time. So we got each other. And they did. But it was nice to see they were like the happiest and funnest couple ever. I liked them a lot. And they were just like, just do whatever your heart tells you to do. So, yeah, that's how we wrap up. Going back to an ex for sex.
Oh.
So then we move on to our next situationship, which is, this one's hot. This one's quite spicy. Being best friends but the opposite sex. How do you feel about that?
Yeah. So let's define what kind of best friendship this would be defined as. So, I mean, I have some best friends and I talk to my best friends all the time about all the things, embarrassing or not. I call them for life situations and I also call them to bullshit and laugh and just joke around. Can I do that with a male friend? Sure. But to the same level as my girlfriends and have those deep, conversations, I can't do that anymore. I feel like especially, having guy friends in the past, someone will, I truly believe someone will end up falling for one or the other. I don't think that it can stay completely platonic. I could be wrong, but in my personal opinion, and from what I've noticed and have seen, I don't think that that typically happens. There's always some sort of attraction from one side or the other.
Yes, I completely agree. I think it's just one of those things where you always have to kind of tap into that communication and have boundaries, right?
Yeah.
Because like you said, over time, someone develops more feelings for the other person without the other person knowing. And then next thing you know, it's a bit of a mess.
Yeah.
And also it kind of, it does affect, like if you're in a relationship, right? Let's say, for instance, you're the only girl in your whole friendship group, right? You just have a bunch of guys as friends.
Right. Like women who just hangs out with guys all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, that's another one that's a bit interesting, where it could be said that that woman really just connects more with the guys than she does with women. But I also think like there could be some type of egotistical part with that, where it's like that person wants to be more of the center of attention, and knowing that there's another female that's a part of this group will kind of take that off that person. And I also kind of feel like that one would probably understand, and she knows, like, have these guys really like her in a different way, which is
right.
And she's probably feeding off of that, right? You just know this is happening, and I know if I was a guy, I wouldn't trust it, because I just be like, something's just not right here, because why do you not have girlfriends? Like you said, we have these deep conversations, which is
guys know. Like if you hang out with if you're a woman and you hang out with a lot of guys, and guys are not going to wonder why. They're going to know why. Oh, like
I hope they would know why.
I mean, I personally believe that they do. Like they're not going to question why you don't have a lot of girlfriends. They're going to know, oh, she's got a lot of guys like wanting to pretty much have sex with her. So.
But it's also like, what do you think about that whole person? Where it's like, what do you mean? Like, this is all you have as friends. As a man, I'd just be kind of like, so you want to talk about it? Like, you never want to tell someone what kind of friends they can have. Like, you can only have girlfriends, guy friends. You have as many friends you want, but I'm also just kind of like, what kind of mindset? I'd be very interested to like understand her mindset.
Right.
And really want to pick it at the end of the day, because it's like, do you really want to be with me as a person? Or are you I'm just another person that you want to have in your group of guys that you're collecting?
Right.
Like, I don't know.
I guess like let's look at it on the other side. So if like a woman's like, oh yeah, I like hanging out with my guy friends because we have a lot of things in common. I like, I don't know, cars, and I like sports, and I like this and that. My girlfriends don't like that. That's okay. Like, you can have friends, but do you not have any kind of like, do you not ever want to talk about like more personal things that only women would understand? Like, does that urge ever come up for you?
Mm.
So, I feel like, and it could be not. I mean, I don't know, but I guess the natural tendency that I feel that as you would want to like talk to like-minded people about like your emotional senses,
Yeah,
you
I agree
know?
with that. I find it
Mhm.
very interesting, but when I say interesting, it doesn't mean it's always in a good way.
Right.
It's one with a question
Yeah.
mark.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that you can't have a guy friend that is your close friend. I mean, I had a guy best friend, right? And this was like back in like years ago, like high school into like college, whatever, close friend. I mean, we both understood our friendship too. Like, I was never planning to go beyond the friendship boundary. I think at one point, I think I was a little attracted. He's a good-looking guy, but we never crossed it. And so as we got older, he got into he found his fiance. We had a conversation. His fiance was a little bit more, she wanted to be the number one woman in his life. I totally get that. Like, having that respect for your friend, because I want him to be happy. I want him to be happy in his relationship, in his marriage, in his future. It Understanding that timing too. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you can have that close relationship with a guy or a woman, like the opposite sex, but you have to understand the other person has to live their journey, their romantic journey too, and you can't get in the middle of that. And
Yeah.
having the love and respect for your friend and blessing it instead of getting all pissed off because they're not hanging out with you like as much is, I think, that's the way I approached it. And
No, I
I
think that's an
feel
adult way of approaching that.
right.
Like, I once was in a relationship with a guy who just was obsessed with all his friends. Like, his friends were, I think I was in a relationship with him and his friends, and I wasn't even first. I was probably like the 10th best friend, right? And this kind of goes into that whole like guys and girls made best friend. Yeah, this one girl was one of his 25 best friends. And I could tell, a woman always knows, like
Mhm.
this person just really likes him. Like, she liked him more than a friend. Like, she would do all these crazy things to get his attention. Like, she'd want to go everywhere we would go, she had to come. Everything we did, she had to do with us. And I'll never forget, one day we were going out and she decided to like get herself lost and not return people's texts all day. And it was this big thing. And I remember telling him, I was like, you do understand that you may think this is your best friend, but she really likes you as like if you could be her boyfriend, which I know you're not attracted to her, but she doesn't know that. But in her brain, she thinks that eventually you're going to turn around and want to be with her. And
Mhm.
he legit was like, well, no, that's not true. We're just best friends. And you're like, see, and that's why I'm like, sometimes guys just are stupid. Sometimes that they just don't know. I shouldn't say stupid, they just are just like they just don't, nothing ever registers in their brains that this is what's going on. And I just wound up leaving that relationship because you're basically in a relationship with a million other people, but also like, I'm not going to sit here and fight with all your 10 best friends and one in particular, your one girl best friend who did not respect the relationship like you would respect the relationship to let it develop into what it needed to be developed into. So that's why I'm always kind of like a question mark there. And when it's like, I just don't know like what it's the ulterior motive there. But like you said, conversation can be had, but I've had that and it just didn't end well.
Right. Yeah. It just, you got to be mature about it. And I think that's where, it can get a little tricky, and especially if you're in a serious relationship or even in a marriage, like, the dynamics are different. The
It's very
dynamics are
different.
very different, and you have to be committed to your person 100% and not share that commitment just because of the quote friendship. Like, respect the friendship as it's supposed to be, not don't relabel it as something else
Yeah.
or make it confusing
Yes.
within the label.
Yeah. Don't blur that line.
Don't blur the
And if
line. Yeah.
anything, have that conversation.
Right.
adult conversation. If you're
Right.
starting to feel a certain type of way, have that conversation with that person, because that person 9 times out of 10 don't even know that you have those emotions or feelings for them. So it's just nice to kind of just touch base within your friendship over time, just to
Yeah.
see where you guys stand.
So best friends with the opposite sex, it's got to have boundaries.
Yeah.
Like very distinct, clear boundaries.
Yes, because I would never say you can't have this friend, but you just need to be very cautious of this one friend.
Right. And you know, like you get your instincts and your gut feeling coming up. And... I don't know. I have like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 senses.
I know. I've got my spidey senses. I don't know. I got enough investigation oxygen in me to know everything. But well, as we digress, let's move on.
Yeah.
So this is fun. Dating your exes or friends' parents.
Oh my God, girl. I've never seen that happen in my life or from anyone around me, but I did just rewatch that movie No Strings Attached with Ashton Kutcher and what's her name?
Natalie Portman.
Yeah. And one of the storylines in the movie was Ashton Kutcher's father in the movie was dating his ex-girlfriend, and her name happens to be Vanessa. I'm like, great. So I thought that was interesting to see it, just because I've never had the experience with myself or any other of my peoples around me. But in the movie, Ashton Kutcher was really fucking pissed. Like it like crushed him, and it made him like do things that he would normally not do. So, he was pissed.
I think that's a big conversation to be
as a child from a parent who's doing that.
I would probably be upset too, because it all depends on the timeline, right?
Right.
So it's like, how was she your girlfriend since you guys were in high school, and now you're adult and your dad's dating her? We got a problem.
Or even a friend, like if it was a friend.
I don't know,
from the neighborhood.
I have a lot of questions, but also if it was, I don't know, if I had a parent and let's say, you're like my friend, for instance, and you just met my dad like 2 years ago or something. You're like, oh, I really like your dad, whatever, da-da-da. Kind of date your dad. I'd probably I don't care. Do what you got to do. You're grown-ups. So you guys can do what you need to do. Just know that you would never be my stepmom. You would never be on any insurance policies.
You're not taking my trust.
Yeah, you're not going to be on the will. But if you have that conversation with me and I'm like, yeah, everyone needs to be loved, right? But I'm like, I don't care. But it's neither here nor there. But I would say if you're from a really wealthy family, the next thing you know, one of your best friends wants to date your dad, you probably have a problem.
Right.
But no, it's just up to the person. But I wouldn't recommend doing it. But I'm just saying, if it was my parent, I wouldn't care. But if it's your exes, like that's just weird. Very weird. No.
That was really weird.
I would never.
Ugh.
Ugh. That was the last thing on the word. Ugh.
How about like brothers?
That doesn't count. Like when we say parents, it's like a hierarchy up there, like it's like they sit up here, then the brothers and the kids sit underneath them. Like,
yeah.
Oh, which actually reminds me, I did know of a person who actually did marry their friend's dad, but it was actually like they had met, I think, working ages ago, and then wound up reconnecting, and they got married and had kids. So there is a small percentage where that works out. But I also don't think they were like besties or anything. It was just like they were friends because they were like, you have your work friends.
Yeah.
Work friends.
So they weren't too close.
You're not besties. They're like work friends. You just make sure she shows up every day. If she doesn't show up, you got to call 911 just because you're like, I don't know where Susan's at today.
Yeah.
Type of relationship. But it seems to be great. Yeah. That
cool.
does actually work itself out. I guess if you're that kind of far removed.
Right.
In a sense,
it would
from
be
that
a lot weirder
friendship.
if it was like a close friend, I guess. And can you imagine like if like you're dating my dad?
I will only date your dad
and you come
if
up to me, you're like, your dad is a piece of shit. And I'm like, wait a minute.
I would never you can't have, and that's the thing.
Can you imagine?
You can't have that type of relationship anymore because you can't talk about those things. Because it's like, what is this? Now you're really blurring all the lines and you're like, do you want this friendship or do you want the relationship? you're kind of like, I don't know, it's two evils. I have no idea.
Uh,
I don't know. That's a lot to think about.
Yeah.
Why do we
I
think
don't
so
even
much
know how I
about?
would digest something like that. I mean, my parents are still together, so that I can't even digest it at all.
No, you can't even digest
But
it. No.
in the case, if like my life was different, I don't know how I would feel about that. I don't know.
I don't mind it. Just be happy and just leave me out of it. That's all I care about.
What a weird situationship.
A very weird situationship, which brings us to our next very interesting situationship, which is actually quite interesting, is dating a friend's ex. Well, that's kind of fucked up. It's not kind of fucked up. That is fucked up.
It is. It's very.
I'm just going to be quite frank on that one.
It's really fucked up.
I don't think I've known of anyone who's done that, or I know I have never done that. That's the most disgusting
I mean,
thing.
I feel like it's very like a very towny thing, you know, especially like where I'm from. I feel like a lot of people dated each other.
I mean, but it's kind of an
like it's like very normal to date someone's ex.
No, not really, because it's an unwritten rule for girl code, right? You just never date someone ex. It just doesn't. I don't know. I don't care if I lived in a small town. All 10 of us that lived here, I'm gonna have to leave out of this town,
right?
Just because it's in the fact
and that's
that
what
we're
most people
recycling
do.
the same humans. Like that's a bit disgusting. I don't. As a woman, I wouldn't want to do it, and I like to think I'm not attracted to the same people that you're attracted to, but we probably are. But if you've ever touched it, I'm never touching it with a 10-foot pole.
No, yeah,
right. Those are factuals.
What's it called? Eskimo brothers.
Well, guys are great about it because I went on a date with a guy and guys seem to be more free about it. And he's like, yeah, I don't mind for my boys to sleep with any of my exes. He's like, we have a whole thing called Eskimo brothers. And I was like, is that really a thing? And he's like, yeah, you can look it up. It's called Eskimo brothers, which basically is you are sharing in this. You basically slept with the same person's partner. And when you think about it, he's like, yeah, you think about the igloo. And I'm like, do I need this picture here, my guy? This is so bizarre. But I think more so men may do it than women. But then also, I don't know who is seeking attention that they need to be going out with their friends. I can tell you a story on that besides what I just told you about Eskimo brothers, which you should probably Google. But I don't have any girlfriends that have, or I know of anyone adjacent as a friend that has done that.
Yeah, I do. I know. But I'm not going to talk about them. I do know that, feelings do get hurt. Whether it was a one-night stand with somebody or a full-on relationship, it doesn't matter. I feel like there's still some sort of like feeling that's hurt, and it's not a good, like no matter what, like there's a connection there, and I was there, and now you're like just taking the dirty second, or what's the sloppy seconds?
Yeah, sloppy seconds.
Yeah.
Someone wants it. Well, I guess that's almost like being the mistress, but I have no idea. It just doesn't sit well with my soul.
Yeah, and like, I mean, look, not to say that there's not a potential to have like a honest, deep connection with your friend's ex. Like, yeah, it could happen, right? Like, I mean, who's to say when you're gonna fall in love or not? It's just you're gonna.
Hold on. But my friend's ex, like, let's be honest. You're my friend. If I break up with this man and you still friends with this man, I have a whole problem with you and him. And if you're telling me like we have a deep connection, no, bitch, I brought you to this relationship with me. You're my friend. When I leave, you leave. Like that's complete loyalty. And if you're deciding like we have this great chemistry together, I'm sorry. When did you start building this chemistry? Because when the hell did you start talking to my boyfriend? You should never been talking to him when we're talking to each other. Only time you should be talking to him is if you're planning a surprise birthday party for me. There should be never any instances where you are alone with him doing any fucking shit. And if you are, I have a couple of questions. But no, like that's just not how that works. Like girl code, like you're never his friend. You're always my friend. If I leave, you leave. That's just how we do it. Loyalty.
Well, now you have like -1 friend.
Yeah, she's dead. She's dead to me.
She's gone.
She's get hit by a tractor trailer.
What if they connected like years later?
The fuck are you still? There's no way. I'm sorry.
Like, let's say like they ran into like the street or they worked for the same company. I'm just asking the question.
I don't care if you ran into each other on fucking Mars. You should know that's Tranisha X. He is the devil, and I don't care.
He's the
And I don't.
devil.
You just don't like. Oh, he doesn't seem so bad after all. We have this great connection, bitch. We're friends, and we still probably are friends to the day. So if you still ran into him and you have this great connection, you come back and tell me about it.
Yeah.
The fuck, bitch, you were never my friend in the first place. Because
Right.
now we have a whole problem.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, why would you even think about that? Like, I don't know. I get very passionate about that project, as you can see.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't like any of these hypothetical situations because I'm
Yeah.
like, if it hypothetically does have to happen, just don't be my friend.
Right.
Like, you're just like, it's gone.
I'll be honest. It's happened to me where someone started a situationship of their own with my situationship, and I let it go. Like I was a little like salty, I'll admit.
Did they talk to you about if
Yeah.
they could be a part of this situation or
Well-
they got in the situationship? Was that communicated or did you just find out about it?
I found out about it. Apparently, it wasn't known that I was, like I never really like talked about my situationship with this person, and
Oh, so no one knew that you were actually with this person besides you and him.
But it was but people.
Okay,
I feel
so-
like it was known but not known. You know what I mean? Like you say you didn't know, but you knew.
Did they
kind
know?
of thing?
Did you tell them though? Because these are blurred lines right now.
Well, she knew after the fact, and she found out, and then she talked to me about it. But I had already known that she was like messing with him.
But she didn't know that you were messing with him first before she started messing with him.
Right,
And when
I mean,
found out,
yeah.
then she was like, well, let me approach you as a woman who's a grown woman, that I didn't know this beforehand. I think it's a little different. And I actually like her approach on this. And did she ask you, like, does this bother you in any way, shape, or form?
Yeah, she did. And I, of course, said, no, it's cool. Like, go for it. But I was a little salty. I was like, and more salty, like, oh, like, you know what I mean? Like, it was just like, ew, like, why would you even want to? Like, if I just told you that I was involved with this person. But okay, whatever. Like, I don't care. Like, it's not that I cared about him or had any attachment or feelings. Like, I was over him, like over him. So
how did this relationship end?
With what?
With this other person and that person?
It ended when I got into another relationship. I mean, actually, no. When it ended because I was just over it. I didn't like the situationship that we were in. And so I just kind of forced myself to outgrow it. And then I ended up getting into another relationship a couple months later.
But those two broke up.
Those two? Oh, that relationship?
No,
yeah. She wasn't interested in him anymore. So,
okay.
yeah.
All right. So it always ends the way it. Okay. Yeah, that's a very interesting story there. Because
Yeah.
it was like she really didn't know. But I also can get where you're like, but I did tell you after the fact, and you're like, you still want to be with him. I have no idea. It's still disgusting. Because you'd be Eskimo sisters or whatever you call that.
Don't call us. Oh, please don't ever repeat that. Although we're saying this on this podcast now, it's going to be on.
I don't know. Yeah, that's very interesting. But that's a very sensitive. I have to say, the situation is very quite sensitive. It's something that I personally would never do. And I would hope like a friend would never do that to me.
Yeah.
But if you do want to pursue something of that nature, just at least have the conversation with me. Then I could just be like, I don't fucking care.
Yeah.
But I would just think like people are like, that's disgusting.
Yeah. I mean, and to be fair, I mean, it was a long time after that it happened. So I mean, that's why I was like super, super over it. But it was just like, it was still like, whoa, I still have like residue in there.
Ew.
You know what I mean? Like in there. Okay. That came off wrong. In my heart, I meant.
That's what we all were thinking was in your heart. As I wink at you because we're not on camera today.
Oh man.
I'm going to take you out of this conversation and move you into
Please.
our last topic of discussion, which is my best friend's wedding. So we had an assignment, right? So my best friend's wedding was something that I think we both were like, we really should look at because we started thinking about, having friends of the opposite sex. Like it's good, it's bad. Like really, like
Yeah.
let's like really digest this movie. Like we're grown-ups and let's see what happens. And that movie's kind of fucked up.
It is.
It is fucked up. I've never said that before. It was
It's not not a happy ending.
No.
Not a realistic one, at least.
No, it was like legit. Like she literally stated out loud that she had like 4 days to destroy a whole marriage with her best friend, who's been her best friend for 9 years, who she never said that I really want to be with you until this person got into another relationship with a 20-year-old, which is quite interesting because I know he was a solid 35, 40. But it's neither here nor there. But it's just like, how do you go about sabotaging your best friend's wedding because you really love this person? But it's like, no, I just, who thought this was a romantic comedy? I have no idea, even though we do not critique films. But this is what I think about when I'm thinking about friends of the opposite sex is like, is she plotting? Like this girl is plotting? Because I don't trust it.
They didn't give us the prelude,
the
preface of the movie. That's what it was. She was plotting. Let's go with that.
She was plotting. She said she was plotting.
But like way before, right?
And she was never plotting before. She never cared about him before. She never returned his phone calls for months. That's how much she cared about him. She never returned his phone calls for months. Then she finally did, and she's like, "I'm getting married." He was like, "I'm getting married in 4 days," and she's like, "What?" And she falls off the bed, and everyone's like, "What?" And she's like, "But I'm in love with you. Oh my God, do you not see this is happening?" And I'm like, and she literally was plotting, and she was plotting with her other best friend to break it all up. I was like, you two best friends are evil. You can't be plotting against the other best friends.
Yeah.
But I digress on that. But that's what I think about when I think about, can you be friends of the opposite sex? I say yes, but I also say you got to have boundaries and conversations. And when she finally did have the conversation, though, with him, she did kiss him. So I don't even know. I have like... This movie weighed me down.
Yeah.
It just weighed me all the way down.
Yeah.
It did. I just don't even know.
It was not a feel good.
No, that wasn't
depressing.
No, that wasn't a romantic comedy.
Same thing with The Wedding Planner. Did you get a chance to see that?
I did not. Tell me about it.
Yeah, it's like basically the wedding planner like falls in love with the groom. And so kind of the same premise as My Best Friend's Wedding, but with a wedding planner. So it's that mistress shit.
Yeah. Which that's why it's like I knew we have this at the end because it kind of encompasses half our situationships, and we actually have to go back and summarize our thoughts on every single situationship.
Yeah. I mean, and the thing is, like, come on, like at the end of the day, like you're at the altar with your partner, and you're like, all of a sudden, I don't really want to be with you. Like, no, that never happens. It rarely happens. It happens, but not in that situation.
I did read a couple BuzzFeed articles about that one. It does happen. It's quite sad. I did watch, I watch a lot of trash TV, and there was one Bridezilla when Bridezilla used to come on, and he left her at the altar. It's not funny, but she was so crazy that she legit eloped with him the next day.
What?
I will never forget that Bridezilla. And she blamed her family for him not showing up.
Oh my God.
She was like, it was all because of your negative energy. He didn't show up. It was pathetic. I cannot. I have to find
family trauma.
Family trauma. Anyway, let's wrap this up. Anyway, okay, so thoughts on friends with benefits. I say don't do it. It's not worth your time. But if you do it, just be smart about it and have conversations. I don't know your thoughts on it, Vanessa.
Yeah, conversations. I just don't do it. I don't recommend it.
I really don't recommend it. I think that's it.
I know people will do it anyways, and they'll have their own, I guess, layout plan for that situationship.
And then you're 7 years deep in a friends with benefits relationship.
I mean, let us know if it's worked out long term for you in this situationship.
Let me know about that 1%.
I don't know any.
Because you need to be playing the lottery then.
For real.
But being the mistress, definitely don't recommend that either.
No,
but if you decide to do it, just know what the consequences are.
Yeah.
One day you're going to probably want to get married and have kids, but you're never going to be 100% confident in a relationship.
I never want to be labeled as a homewrecker. I mean, that's a terrible label to have, too.
Well, she's always going to live with that in the back of her head that someone's going to take her man because she took that man. So she's got to live with her own demons or that person or that guy, whoever. So that's another one. You do what you got to do. If it makes you happy, do what you do. But I recommend against
But
it.
be respectful of people. It's just because it makes you happy doesn't mean that, it's a good thing. So.
No. And going back to an ex for sex, I I've quit those things. Don't do it.
Depends on what your life goals are. And
Did your life goals?
I mean, if you want to just bullshit around, then just bullshit around. But
that could be your friends with benefits right there. You went back to an ex that turned into a friends with benefits that never transpired to anything. Yeah. It all makes a weird triangle.
yeah.
So, yeah. Let's say being best friends with the opposite sex. That's another one. Just make sure you have the right boundaries in place and always communicate and check in.
Mm-hmm.
Just talk,
For
just
real.
talk and talk.
Yeah. Just be very transparent of your friendship and the boundaries and how like that's going to look with, when you have a long-term partner in your life,
Yeah, and be ready to let that partner go.
Exactly. Yeah, don't be offended. Just be grateful for the time that you've had with your best friend of the opposite sex, and be happy for that person.
Yeah.
And they should be happy for you.
And if they're not, that's a different story.
Then
That's
that means
episode.
that kind of shows exactly our point, right?
Yeah. That they legit had an ulterior motive there.
Right.
But then dating your exes or friends' parents. I say no against dating your ex's parents.
Because it's just an awkward situation. And why would you want to put yourself in that position?
I have no idea, but people
Unless
do.
you're like spicy like that.
You want to spice it up a little bit?
You want some excitement in your life, I guess. That
I have
has
no idea.
a lot of weird circumstances.
Yeah, it does. And dating a friend's ex, don't you ever think about doing that. And if you do...
But you could date her brother. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, you could date her brother all day.
That's cool.
To be dating the ex. That's just very weird.
Yeah.
Not unless you want to
yeah, the ex thing, yeah.
Yeah. No. Yeah, don't do it. And
you ain't rolling with me no more.
No. I put you on that school bus and you're gone. Yeah, so I think situationships a wrap. I actually like this episode. There's a lot of different situationships, and I'm sure there's many that we never touched on. But I think these are like our top 6, right? Not top 5, top 6. Well, they're within 10. I'm sure there's other ones we just don't know about, but I enjoyed.
I just remembered something. But
what are you going to tell me about? Do you want to talk about it now?
No, well, if you forgot to mention Mountaineer Guy.
Oh, fuck that. That's a different episode.
Okay, let's save him for another episode because that's a good one.
Yeah, so just be prepared for later episodes. Down in our, there's so much that's happening there. Yeah. How you bring this up? So
I'm sorry. I wrote a note. It's not to forget.
But now you know what's so good about this? Now you guys got to wait for Mountaineer. So just remember, we have a lot. We have a lot of episodes, and that's one of many. Jesus Christ.
All right, let's wrap it up for today, and we'll bring him up next time.
I don't even know this is in the next ep. No.
Well,
no. Don't worry about it. He's coming in these episodes.
Coming up.
We've got so many. Just you guys gonna be asking what's gonna happen with Mountaineer. And I'm gonna let you guys know this motherfucker.
Mountaineer Guy.
Oh, Lord Jesus. All right. With that being said, I don't even know. All right. I think we're done.
Yeah, I think so too.
All right.
That's a wrap.
All right, Vanessa.
See you later, Tanisha.
Oh, our names, Vanessa and Tanisha.
I know.
All right, TV.